Hi everyone, welcome to Cloud Trip. This is your host Amitabha, and in today's video we are going to learn all about S3. So S3 is basically the storage service provided by AWS. So what we are going to do in this video, we are going to learn all the integrated details of S3. We are going to learn about how to create a bucket practically. So yeah, let's get started. What is S3? So as I've just mentioned that S3 is a simple storage service. So S3, simple storage service. It is object storage, by the way. So what are the other type of storage options that Amazon is giving us? So we have EFS, EBS, Glacier, and S3. So what are those? So EBS, all the EC2 instances that you see. So EBS volumes are basically attached to those EC2 instances. So that is it for EBS. EFS is relatively a new type of storage service. So in EFS it's a file storage, by the way. EFS, elastic file storage. And Glacier is basically used for archiving of the data. And for example, if you have tons of data and you need and you need not access them frequently, so you can use Glacier to archive those data. And S3 is object storage. So in S3 you can store any types of data, almost any types of data. In a single put, you can put around 5 TBs of data, and that is huge in a single put operation. And you can store around infinite amounts of data. And also the main advantage I think of S3 is the cost. What type of data can we put in S3? We can put the log data, we can put practically anything, the VHDs. Also you can store images. Also you can host your personal website on S3, static personal website on S3. Yes, you can do that, and that at a very cheap cost, believe me. So we'll be showing you practicals how to do that, but I'm telling you right now. So many people don't know that actually you can host your website, and monthly the cost would be around not even $1. So that is huge. Yeah, that will be showing that. We'll be showing that, and that too with the highest availability. Okay, it's not that whenever more than 10 users comes, the website starts hanging. So it won't be like that. It would be fast. It would be scale to around 10 millions of users. So it will be like that type of website. So yeah. So S3. So this is the definition that I have just copied from AWS website, and this is the definition. You can read through that. But the main point that you need to remember is that it is an object storage. It is highly durable. It is highly available, and you can store any types of. So looking into the advantage of S3. So why the customer will be using S3? So it is highly durable. As I've just mentioned that the durability is 11 nines of durability. So it is 99.119. So you can understand the level. So yeah, and the flexibility. So as I've just said that you can store almost any types of data. It is highly flexible. You can store any types of data, and it is highly available also. So the data that you are keeping in S3, you can retrieve the data. You can perform put operation, update operation, any type of operation, anytime. And cost, I think that's the most important thing. If I'm not wrong, you can in the free tier, you can put around 20,000 put request, 20,000 get requests, and 2,000 put requests for free. And this is huge. And scalability, as I've just mentioned, we can create. We'll be showing you in the later videos that we'll be creating a website that might scale to tens and millions of users without even throttling. So we can do that. It's highly secure. We have bucket policies to restrict the bucket. So that is one point. Other way to secure your bucket is that we have the encryption policy. So there are basically two types of encryption: server-side encryption and client-side encryption. So server-side encryption means that whenever you're putting your data, when you enable the server-side encryption in your bucket, so whenever you are putting the data into the bucket, so the data you're putting the raw data into the bucket, and the data is getting encrypted, and it's getting stored in the the data centers of AWS in encrypted format. So the person staying there cannot tamper or cannot see your data because it is encrypted from the server side. And when you're trying to retrieve the data is getting unencrypted, and you are getting the raw data that you have just stored. The process is like this: you are putting your raw data, AWS is encrypting your data. If you have enabled server-side encryption, so it is encrypting your data and storing there. and the person staying there cannot decrypt the data and check the data. It is not possible. And also there is the option of client-side encryption. So in client-side encryption, what you're doing is that you're encrypting the data from your client side, from your side. That means what the objects that you're putting, those are basically encrypted. So you're putting the encrypted object. So basically, if you're not trusting AWS, or if you have any complex requirement, you might be doing that. So you'll be encrypting the data from your side, and you put your encrypted data in AWS. So that's also one thing you can do. So basically what you've learned till now to say, what is S3? Object storage, fast, reliable, highly available, highly durable service. What can you do with S3? You can store unlimited amounts of data. There is no limit to the amount of data you can store, but in a single put operation, you can put maximum a single object. I mean, in a single object has to be maximum that a single object can be is of 5 TB. So you got to remember this thing. And the data that you can put in S3 is unlimited. And okay, by the way, it is a pay-as-you-go type of usage, and the pricing also depends on the usage. Yes, you can cache the data. There's a service called CloudFront. So by using CloudFront, you can cache all the data that are kept in S3, so that once it is cached, you can retrieve the data from the edge locations rather than from the origin. So you can do that. And pricing, as I've just mentioned, is high. It's very cheap. Free tier, you are getting around 20,000 get request and 2,000 put request for free, and is very cheap. And you are paying basically for the transfer, the data in and data out, and basically the storage. So it's very cheap, and it is like a pay-as-you-go service. So it depends on the number of data you're putting in and the number of data you're putting out. So for example, you can also further reduce your data. For example, you have some data that you do not need to use it frequently. You can basically use the lifecycle policy of S3 and store them into Glacier. So by doing that, you're reducing the storage cost, because you need to store those data for a larger time. So you need to reduce cost. So you can use the lifecycle policy of S3 to further store the data. So what are objects and bucket? So basically, if you see this, so if you see this diagram, you can see. So bucket is basically a type of folder, you can say, where you can keep the objects. So the bucket is basically, you can think of it as a folder where you can keep the objects. So whenever you are adding an object, data with a version ID gets generated automatically. So you need not do anything, but in the backend, it's a key value stored. So they are, creating, whenever an object is put, a version ID and a key is getting generated. So yeah, and so let's start by creating our own bucket. And so as I've just mentioned, so bucket is a container or a folder that we'll be creating. And two things you got to remember. One is that the bucket name has to be globally unique. So the bucket name is that giving is going to be globally unique, and you can access the data in the bucket using REST API also. So let's get started. Go to the portal. I am excited as you are. So let's get started. So we are logged into the AWS console. I am logging in as a root user, as you can see, but you should not do that. First, when you are creating your own AWS account, remember one thing, to disable the programmatic access to the root user, create an IAM user, and use use your account from there. Do not use a root account, because it is a demo purpose. I'm just showing it for the demo purpose. That's why I'm doing it from a root account. Type S3 over here. It will be redirecting you to the S3 page. By the time it loads, you can check the pricing. I have noted. So I'll be giving you the description of the pricing. If you need detailed description of the pricing, you can see. As I've just told, there are different tiers, and depending on that, we are going to create a bucket. So we are into the S3, and we are going to create a bucket. Click on Create Bucket. So what I've said, one thing, that the bucket name must be globally unique. So let's keep the bucket name of the bucket Cloud Trip 1 demo testing. So hopefully this name is globally unique, and we are keeping the bucket in the region Mumbai. So what we are going to do is that we are going to block all the public access. So that's what AWS recommends. That's the safest way to play, because you don't want the bucket data to be accessed globally. Do you? No, we don't want. Until and unless it's a public website or a portfolio where you want the data, want your data to be accessed globally. So if it's not, it's better to play safe. Going to the advanced setting, as you can see, so object lock. So it's a very important and a very beautiful concept that AWS. For example, your customer is having a requirement, a compliance requirement that your data cannot be tampered with. For example, it can happen. You can think of it like there is a web server that is running, and all the application logs that are coming is being stored in S3. So it's a beautiful use case of S3. So all the application logs are getting stored into S3. Now what you want is that you don't want to tamper with those logs for the compliance requirement. So you don't want the data to be changed or deleted accidentally. So by enabling this, log is implemented, and by enabling it also means that the bucket versioning will get enabled. So what is versioning? The versioning basically tells us that for example, if you have a data, for example, in a bucket you have hosted a static website, and that name is home.html. So if you have made any changes in the home.html, so it won't be overwritten. A new version will be created, and you'll be paying for each and every version. So you got to remember this. But changing the data in the object, so it won't be getting overwritten. A new version will get created with a version ID. So we are not going to do that obviously, because it's a demo video. And yeah, just click on create bucket. It just takes 2 to 3 seconds to get created if everything is all right and the name is globally unique. So the bucket is now being created. So the bucket name is this. I'm just copying that because I have so many buckets, I need to search it. So this is a bucket that I have created. This is the name of the bucket. This is a region, and we have blocked the public access because we don't want the data to be globally accessible. So yeah, we are going into this bucket right now, and we'll be putting an object basically into this bucket. So basically we'll be putting this image. This is a very image close to my heart, and this is it was in Pailing. So we'll be putting that object into this bucket. So go to here, so click on upload, click on add files. So click on the image that you want to upload, and click on upload. So uploading is in progress and the data is being uploaded. You can check the data out. So you can check the data out. As I've just mentioned, that storage class is standard over here, and the server side encryption is not being enabled. It's uploaded. So here is the server side encryption is disabled. Storage class is standard, and this is the key. And this is the object URL. So as I mentioned, we can access the object using REST API. And if I click on that, if I click on the object URL, what you'll be seeing is that it won't be able to giving me the access because I have disabled the public access. So people with this URL cannot access that directly. So yeah, but for example, if you're having a public website, or if you want those data to be accessible to some application, to a particular application, not to globally, so you can do that. We have a bucket policy in playing. The storage class is there. You can choose between different classes depending on the requirement that you're having. We will be covering these storage classes later in the video. And yeah, you can enable the encryption. So we can use KMS. KMS is key management service that AWS is providing us. So you can encrypt that. So if you come back to the bucket, click on properties, you can see the versioning is disabled. As I was just discussing, that versioning enables us to keep multiple copies of the data, so that I don't want the data to be deleted or to overwritten. So yeah, and the static website hosting, as I was just telling, so you can use the S3 bucket to host your static website. So it's a beautiful feature that it is giving us. So yeah, that's it. And if you have any questions, you can always come back to me. You can comment on the video.